Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we are going to discuss Pahua and the Soul Stealer by Lori M. Lee. This is another, not iteration, this is another addition, there we go, to the Rick Riordan Presents book series. This is about Hmong culture, H-M-O-N-G, mythology mixed into modern times. This came out September 2021. It's 413 pages plus a glossary. I have very mixed feelings about this book because I loved the ending. I absolutely hated the middle, and I liked the beginning. I am very curious what the next book is going to bring, even though it doesn't say at the end, coming, fall 2022, Pahua and whatever. It doesn't say that. So I'm thinking the next book's going to rely on how well this series does, this particular book does in sales. This was really good. There were parts of this that drove me nuts. So there's no reason this was 413 pages long plus a glossary. I understand why, but for the story purposes of keeping the story moving, some parts just stalled. It hit a brick wall and it stalled, and it pains my soul because I was very excited to read this book. I knew absolutely nothing about the Hmong culture. Nothing. And I'm probably mispronouncing that. H-M-O-N-G. I knew nothing. So learning that Hmong people were in China, but then they got ostracized from China and had to go to like current day Laos and Vietnam. But like there's no written history of the culture, and it's a very tonal language. So it's all very word of mouth, or it's an oral history. So different stories can have different meanings or different details changed based off of the region that certain families relocated, kind of a thing. So Pahua Ma'oa is a very interesting character. 11 years old, is wearing her green dress, her hobbit / Jedi robe. She has a sword here. This character here, Zhong, Z-H-O-U-N-G, I think. The plot of this book is Pahua is going to summer school with her younger brother Matt, and she is trying to make friends with these other girls she's the only, Hmong girl in her school. So she's getting picked on because she's different compared to the other white kids. And the hopeful friends, ask her if she wants to, play with them in the woods after school. She does. But Pahua could see spirits, and she has this best friend named Miv, which I'm probably mispronouncing, even though it's spelt M-I-V, and he's a cat spirit, and only she can see him. But her family has shaman background. Her mom and her aunt don't speak anymore, but like her aunt is a practicing shaman, kind of, even though they don't see her. The dad left many years ago. Anyway, Pahua accidentally, inadvertently releases this young girl's spirit on a bridge, who then races back to school, steals her brother Matt's soul, and takes it to the spirit world. So the plot, I keep saying concept. The plot is now Pahua has to go to the spirit world to get Matt's soul so that way Matt doesn't die. This random girl, Zhang, comes about, who is tasked from this shaman school to see what the hell happened. Why was this bridge spirit released? Why is there chaos now ensuing? And she inadvertently has to, team up with Pahua to go to the spirit world in physical form to get Matt's soul. But that's the beginning of the book. Okay, cool. Bringing us into the plot points, right? The title of the book, Pahua and the Soul Stealer. We know the Soul Stealer is this little bridge girl. The soul in question is Matt. Why did the little girl steal Matt's soul? And then we have to get to the spirit world to get Matt's soul back, right? Okay, awesome. In the middle of the book, we have like 2 to 4 pages of Pahua's thoughts, and it drove me nuts. Absolutely nuts. Because that's going to, what I've said in previous reviews about certain authors and how they write. You do not need to give pages and pages of inner thought detail to keep a story moving. So if I'm looking at this as a TV show, or if I'm looking at this as a movie, this would probably only be an hour and 20 long minute movie. It would be very quick. Even though it's a 413 page book, it'd probably be very quick because the scenes that happen, the fight scenes, the quest scenes, all of these. There's thousands of side quests, which drove me nuts too, in the middle of the book. Leading up to the face-off with the spirit, the girl spirit, you know, allowing her to cross over rather than destroy her, getting Matt's soul back to him in the you know, the mortal realm. It's a very quick plot, but it's filled with filler. And that drove me nuts. The filler drove me nuts. I don't need 4 pages of inner dialogue of Pahua thinking when all she needs to do is get from point A to point B with a little indication of why she's thinking of getting from point A to point B, or the trouble of getting from point A to point B. But the 4 pages of inner dialogue drove me nuts. It stalled the story, and it's unfortunate because it's a good story. So the side quests, which drove me nuts, was helping this spirit with this thing and helping this spirit with that thing, and then we had to get a lightning axe to defeat the thunder god in order to then reveal Miv's true identity of being a son of the thunder god. But also Pahua is a reincarnation of a historic hero who faced off the thunder god, who needs a rematch. And then the thunder god really had nothing to do with the bridge spirit stealing the soul, but like kind of also had something to do with it, because they all like kind of work together, but they don't. It was a little wonky because there was too much going on with the side quests. If we just went from point A to point B to point C, getting Matt's soul back from the bridge spirit, if the bridge spirit was actually in cahoots with XOV is the thunder god's name. It's not Jav as you would think it is. But again, I speak English. I read English. I also learn a little bit of that Southwest USA and, you know, Aztec Mayan kind of thing because of the native background within the Americas. So XOV would be my language, Jav, right? Like Xavier, so Zav, or Zav, for instance, right? X would be a Z sound. But it's not. I think it's like show or something. Let me pull that up because it's gonna drive me nuts that I can't remember it. Saw. XOV is pronounced saw. 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 I would never know that unless this glossary. So I'm very happy that we have that Hmong glossary in the back. But like that's my point. It's a culture that I had no knowledge of, right? So I'm so happy for Lori Lee that she has a chance to share stories of her culture that have not been seen in a mainstream media before. I did not know this culture existed until recently. I would never know that this culture existed unless I was constantly reading the Rick Riordan Presents books. The Rick Riordan Presents series, it's not really a series, but it's an expanded universe within the Percy Jackson universe, of course, and it's extremely important because it's giving people a chance for their own voices to be heard. That's why the hashtag own voices coincides with hashtag Read Riordan. Read Riordan Presents. Rick Riordan is a storyteller of the gods, and he's an absolute hero to various unheard cultures before who get to share their stories, and I'm so excited. There's a Samoan book coming out in like a year or two. Can't wait to read up on the Samoan gods and what they're doing in the Pacific Islands. The next book we have is The Cursed Carnival and Other Calamities, a collection of short stories from the authors we've already had before. Uncle Rick also is going to throw in some Celtic mythology in that. Can't wait to see it. Then we have Tristan Strong, that third book. Then we have Daughter of the Deep, which is by Rick Riordan. It's a thing from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Anyway, I'm rambling. Point is that I'm very grateful that these books are being presented to us under that Rick Riordan Presents banner because everyone can work together inclusively, showing that there are other people aside from the cisgendered Caucasian, heterosexual crowd out there. It's not exclusive. It was never exclusive, but it was always deemed exclusive. And that's not a thing anymore. It's not how the world works anymore. It's 2021. That's not how this works. Everyone has a chance to be represented in media. Now, and that's what's very important about these books. I am so happy that this book exists. And I'm okay that I hated the middle of this book. I liked the beginning. I loved the ending with the wrap up at the end. I'm excited to see a second book. I'm excited to read a second book. It's okay that I didn't love this book. It's great that some people might love this book. I just love that this culture is getting representation when I didn't know it existed. I'm so excited that this culture is getting representation because representation matters. Everyone has a voice that should be heard, and sometimes people can't hear when people are speaking, right? But that's okay. And sometimes people can't even speak for themselves, and that's all right, because sometimes you got to scream loud enough and someone will eventually hear you. This is a book that's screaming right now. It's screaming that Hmong culture exists, and it has existed. And because the people were ostracized from China and had to go to Laos and Vietnam, there is no written history. It's just an oral retelling of their mythology and their legends. We now have a physical, papered, glossaried version of Lori's family's retelling of these stories, brought into a 11-year-old girl's, travels to the spirit world to get her brother's soul back. The little cat guy right there. Let me see if I'm pronouncing that right. M-I-V is pronounced me, M-E-E. Again, I would not know that without this glossary, so thank you for that. The Hmong word for cat is me. So, Pahua and the Soul Stealer, brand new 2021 book. Give it a read because it does have a really it's very Avatar, Last Airbender and Legend of Korra, in the sense of you have these like animal spirits in the spirit world, but they're like part animal, part human sometimes. That was cool because it was I'm familiar with that, so it was nice seeing that. But it's also nice learning. The benefit of books from different cultures that you're not familiar with is that you learn. A great quote from Disney's Pocahontas. You think the only people who are the people who look and think like you, but if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'd learn a thing you never knew. This is a prime example. The people that I never knew are here, and I'm learning, and it's cool, and it's awesome, and that's how we grow as a community. We're all one. We all bleed the same red blood, and we all have a heart that pumps, right? It doesn't matter what the outsides look like. The insides are all the same. So once we all realize the insides are all the same, that we're all just squishy bags of meat on the inside, that's it. That's all we need, right? That's all we need. Everyone has a voice that should be heard. Some people can't scream, others can. This book is screaming about Hmong culture in a mainstream media, and I am so grateful that I read this book. That's all I got. Mucho mahalo.